It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 5, Episode 8. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, my good brother, 2023, yes. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, bro. New year, new me. Yeah, okay. What's going on?
Well, new year, old me.
Exactly right. That's right. New year, old me.
That's, that works. But no, I'm doing really well. Looking forward to the new year. Exciting things happening here and elsewhere. I can't wait to get things started. They're already in motion. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm hitting first, but it's great.
It's going to be a good year, right? We're going to put that out into the universe. It's going to be a good year.
It's going to be a real good year. We're going to move forward. Gas prices are going to drop. Unemployment's going to continue to drop.
Shows are going to get better. More attendance. More shows.
Lots of new venues.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah. Yes, putting it out there.
Yeah.
I know myself already. I have destroyed every resolution I had, so I already know that.
You already know it?
I already know it. I just write them down and then just go, yeah, okay. I'm going to try, and then it doesn't work.
You write them down just for the sake of, this is kind of like what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, just to say I wrote it down, but you don't pay attention to them. Yeah.
Because somebody goes, well, do you have resolutions? I go, yes, I do. I wrote them down. That's my resolution.
There you go. Well, listen, that's a big step. That's a big step. Some people don't even read them.
That's true. That is true.
According to that alternative way of thinking, once you put it out into the universe, you have to write it down.
That's
so
right.
Let it be written, so let it be done type of thing. They want you to read it every morning, every night, so you put it into your consciousness. You put it out into the universe, and it's floating around there. The energy's happening, and it finds its way back to you in a way, right?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I do believe in a lot. I've seen a lot of it. I've experienced a lot of it. I've talked to people about it, and they started doing it, and it seems to work better for them. But hey, listen, it's it never works for the guys that pioneer it. It's always the other people. So kind of like the music industry. If you have more people doing that, and it's a positive energy about like what you're going to accomplish, goals you're going to reach. If more people are doing it, I think it's just easier to make things happen. If there's too much negativity, that's what you're going to get, because sooner or later it wears you down.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true, man. And then, it takes up way too much energy to be negative and miserable. So.
But there's a lot of that, right? And the saying misery loves company is it fuels the fire, right? People will stop to see a train wreck in mass quantities, but they won't stop to, a majority of people will pass by a field of sunflowers.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you know what I mean? And there's more beauty in that. There's more hope. There's more positivity. Where in the other thing, it's a downer. It's dread. It could be swarming with death. It's just, horrendous. But people will gravitate towards that. So that idea of misery loves company, that's what we're fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, man. It's very true.
That mentality can be easily applied to what we do as musicians. If you don't have, speaking of resolutions or something like that, I don't really do resolutions myself. What I've always done, and I started this years ago after reading a book when I was in my early 30s about setting goals and then working towards those goals and giving yourself short-term, long-term goals, and then giving yourself achievable goals, and then ones you got to really work hard for. And the idea about giving yourself achievable goals is to kind of give yourself a cookie every so often, like make it, hey, I can do this. And there are also goals that you can do if you just got off your rear end and did them.
Yep.
Because a lot of us, 60% of the goals that we want to do are things that we can do and we have the power to do. We just kind of refuse not to do. Like, I want to lose some weight. Well, for a lot of us, if we don't have a medical condition, it is a matter of choice. right? If we just got off our butt and did a little bit more, we could do it. I don't know. I want to be someone who makes my bed every morning. And now that's something I've been doing for 30 years. I didn't make my bed. I always, what's the point? I'm going to go mess it up anyway. I just get in there. It's already set to where I want it to be. But then I started realizing it gives you a focus, it gives you a purpose, and it gives you a fresh start every time. And it's something as basic as that. That's a goal that I was not achieving simply out of laziness. And I created a reason for my laziness. And I think as artists, we do that too. We do that. Oh, I don't like that club. I don't like the manager there, or the barmaid is always rude. Well, okay. But if you really want to play there, and that may be the place to play, create the opportunity for yourself. That's a goal you can achieve. If they don't want you to play, that's a different story. You made the best effort you could. However, if it's just a matter of you overcoming a dislike for one person, or the assumption of the dislike of one side or the other, well, that's just silliness. You're creating your own walls. And by us not putting goals out there to try to achieve as artists, we put up our own obstacles and blockades. And then we like to, not everybody, but there is that sentiment like, well, it's because of you. It's your fault. And we've talked about this in some other things. Sometimes, it's you, not me type of routine. When at the end of the day, it's no one's responsibility but your very own. That's what I've done. Like resolutions, and I think that's why we're actually giving ourselves ultimatums. Like, I need to do this. I have to do this. If I don't do this, what a case. But if you create goals and then work towards those goals, I know this isn't the topic of the show, but we are into the new year, and people sometimes take it as a fresh start. I've talked to people who go, it's just another day. It's the next day. And nothing's changed. Well, that may be true, but the flip side is it can change, because it could be a state of mind, a state of being, a state of belief. And maybe if you start putting more stock into yourself, for whatever that is, and it just doesn't have to be music, it could be art, it could be writing, it could be exercise, it could be being a better friend, better parent, better sibling, better spouse, whatever. You just have to make that decision. Remember, we talked about this in other episodes, that people they cut lines and say, if they want to do something, they'll do it. If they don't want to do something, they'll come up with reasons not to do it, make excuses, ghost you, disappear, hide under the sheets, whatever. That's my soapbox. I'm going to get off it because it's hurting my legs. Because, again, like everything else, even with the soapbox, I got to stand on my toes to get to the mic. The box is just not tall enough.
It's Ross the Boss.
Take it down. This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
So anything else going on with you as you enter into the new year?
No, it's funny, when you were talking about that, I look back at things, and I'm a firm believer in things do happen for a reason, right? Like, it doesn't hurt to put stuff out into the universe, because you never know, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't, but I could say that there have been things that I've put out in the universe, and I've kind of gotten back. Maybe not the same exact way that I put out in the universe, but if you look at it with an open mind, you go, well, yeah, okay, I kind of did get that back, or I got back something that was better or just as good, but not exactly what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like that thing we talked about at our very first show. Like, what is success? Success is what you make it, you know what I mean? What you plan to be. And there are a lot of things I haven't done that I wanted to do when I was a kid, but I go, but I did do some of those things in a way, not maybe the way that I had dreamed about it, but I did it. You know what I mean? And I've been there. It's pretty awesome when you look back on it. And even in the past couple of years, when I was out of my former band, I said, I'm going to start a new project. Like, I'm not done. I'm not ready, and nobody's going to tell me that I'm done. And here I am. We're not as far as I would like us to be, but that's okay, because we've just hit some roadblocks. But we're still together. We're still here. We're still jamming, and we're still moving forward. And I did it, right? I mean, that's the thing. I put it out in the universe. I said I'm going to do it. It took a little while. It took longer than I'd hoped. But I did, and here we are. So I'm a firm believer in things do happen if you put it out there, if you just have if you have patience and the right attitude and the work ethic, right? Like, sometimes you kind of like what you said, like, you have to do it. You just can't put it out there, like, and hope for the best. Like, you have to put it out there and do the work.
Exactly. Again, goal setting and goal achievement has nothing to do with what other people think, do, or say. It's all a personal aspect. So I make a goal, whatever that is, I set it, I work towards it, and I achieve it. And like you said, success is based on how you accept it and what you do with it. It may not be the success that other people want or assume or consider or want, or it doesn't make a difference because they have nothing to do with the equation. However, we make that part of the equation, whether we do it on a conscious or subconscious level, because we're always worried about, well, so-and-so doesn't feel this, or just because they don't acknowledge what we do doesn't mean that it's not an accomplishment or success. Just because it's not, say, on the level of Metallica doesn't mean that it's not successful.
Right.
I know that some people will say, well, that's the new train of thought to make all of us losers feel better. Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's true. But at the same time, what's so wrong with it? What's wrong with feeling good about the things that you do and the things that you accomplish? Not everything has to be a competition. And I think that the older you get, the more you start realizing that, because like you said, there's a point in time where you go, well, I never achieved anything that I wanted to achieve. But then time goes by and more, and if you're being honest and reflecting, you go, well, I did do that. I have done this. And, when people go, well, you haven't toured the world. Well, yeah, maybe, but I've been to different parts of the world, and maybe there's parts of the world that, I don't know if I really want to tour.
Yeah,
I'm not,
100%.
It may be too cold, it may be too expensive, it may not have the payoff that I want for whatever reason that is. There's certain parts of the world now that maybe not safe. So why put yourself into that? So touring the world and touring parts of the world, well, what's the difference? The experience is the same. Maybe it's a smaller package, but that's okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Listen, there isn't that much room on a tombstone for most people anyway. So how about just, hey, enjoyed the life they were given? You know what I mean? That says it all. And whatever that is. Like, what's the saying? When you're dealt lemons, you make lemonade. Well, that's basically that saying is, it's not like, you kind of take the good with the bad, but think about it deeper. You made lemonade out of the lemons that you were handed. Now, lemons are kind of represents something that isn't good, right? You got the lemon card, a lemon law, it's something that just kind of, you dealt a raw deal, right? Bad hand. It's crap. But the only way that you can make lemonade out of it is if that you're constantly still working at it. Like if you're handed lemons and that's all you have, well, then you've never cultivated enough skill sets, thinking, perspective, to do anything with it. I just got lemons. And then you throw the lemons away. Well, now that's even double.
Yeah.
Right? But if you take the lemons, at least, if you can't sell, at least you got something to drink. Like you said, you have to put in the work. Goals just don't happen. And actually, resolutions are just words. Maybe some things on a paper, but if you don't take the steps, like most people don't, they're just a waste of time. That's why I look at it as more like goals, because it gives me something to keep working towards. So
I think the word resolutions is probably not the best word. I mean, obviously we've been using it for years, but maybe New Year's goals may be a better
New Year achievements.
Way to describe it.
You know what I mean?
Achievements is good. Yeah,
there's a lot of different things. I mean, again, we still do things that may be a bit passé. There may be something positive in there, but it's kind of gotten clouded and lost. I mean, because you think about it, everybody jokes about resolutions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You make them on December 31st. You break them by 2 p.m. January 1st. You know what I mean. You don't even make 24 hours. So, but think about it. Goals give you a longer frame to work on, to work at, to work towards.
Yeah.
So you don't have to feel like it's A, B, right? Today, tomorrow, boom. Sometimes it is like that. To get started, there may have to be a cutoff. Like, I'm done, right? Like if you're trying to get over an addiction, but it's a road. And that getting over that addiction of whatever that is, that's a goal. And that has to be worked at, right? You want to get connected to some kind of distribution or label where it's not costing you. You have to go look for that. You want more shows. You want to play in different cities. You want to write different kinds of music or be involved with other artists to expand your repertoire. Then you need to work at that. That's a goal. There are 5 goals right there you could lay it on the line. You want a bigger beard than Chris Natalini? Yeah. Well, there you go. Stop shaving. Throw the stuff away. So anyway, let's get to the topic of the show.
Yes.
Tonight's topic is there such a thing as being overproduced? Is there such a thing as being overproduced? So I guess right now we're speaking primarily of the music, whether an artist or a band. Can that music be overproduced? Chris, what do you think, buddy?
Now, obviously, when we talk about being overproduced, let me start by saying that I understand when bands and producers, like I understand when things are overproduced and why they're overproduced. Like, I totally get it. In my opinion, I do think that things can be overproduced. There are many records or albums or CDs or whatever, streaming, especially in the past handful of, I'll say 3 or 4 years, that I've really heavily noticed, especially in the genres that I am heavily involved in. Some of the records that come out, they are so overproduced. It sounds so mechanical. Now, I understand. I am an older guy. I come from a different way of recording. You and I joked about a couple times during the years we've been doing this about recording on reel to reel, and that when someone, when you get when you have a 5-minute song and you get to the 4th minute and somebody messes up, you got to redo the whole thing because you didn't have the technology of just cutting and pasting and doing all that. And so I understand that. I'm also a big believer too. David Lee Roth, and I've said this before. David Lee Roth, a long time ago, had said he's a firm believer. And if you could do it under one white light bulb in your favorite pair of jeans, if you can't do it, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. And I totally agree with that. I think that when you overproduce something, you kind of lose that. Well, you lose something, right? Obviously, I'm not going to give any band names away, but there was an album that came out this past year that I was really looking forward to, of a metal band that was kind of, they've been around a long time, 30, 35 years, however long it's been. And they put, this is like their first new record in a lot of years. And I got it, and I was like, the music's great. Everybody's doing a killer job. The album is good, but it is so overproduced. There's the vocals, there's layers and layers of vocals and the guitars and the drums. And I go, how are you? I'm about to answer my own question, but like when I think, I go, how are you going to reproduce this live? Right? Like that. But I also know that nowadays, even in, according to Blackie Lawless, his way of thinking was, well, I want things to sound like the record. I believe my fans came to hear the songs how they remember them or listen to them, and this is the only way I could recreate it. So we have backing tracks, and you and I could go back and forth about backing tracks, till we're blue in the face how we feel about them or whatever. But when you're so overproduced, you lose that, because you do have to play some of those songs live, and sometimes you can get away with it. And then there's other times where you lose that energy. Again, this is my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right or I'm wrong. I just know that when things are so mechanical and they sound mechanical, it really kind of takes away from it. My wife and I just went to a concert by the band's name is Ginger from the Ukraine, and they're amazing. They're very technical. I don't even know if you would call them death metal, but they're very technical metal. And it is so spot on that the drummer's using triggers and I'm not saying they use back tracks. I have no idea, because they were amazing. But everything sounds so computerized that they were great. The energy was great. The sound was great, but the sound was too great, if you get my meaning. Like, everything was just perfect. And to me, you lose that. Like, that's a part of a live performance, is going in and hearing those, just that live stuff, man. Maybe it's not, maybe you miss a note or two, or, maybe somebody misses a word, or the drums are just real. I know in, my band Seeds, our last record we recorded, we made it a point to make sure that Dan's drums were actual drums. And that is how we recorded them. I mean, they are his real drums. He is playing real drums in a real room with real mics. There's not much effect on it, just a touch, but there's not much, just to kind of get, it doesn't take it away from it. You still hear the drum sound. And I miss that. I miss a lot of that in the new era of, I'll say metal because I'm in that genre. I miss that real live studio sound. Everything just sounds so overproduced. And don't get me wrong, like I like when vocals have a couple of things to them and there's things going on and the guitars are thickened up and the drums sound good, but sometimes you could just turn too many knobs and it loses that luster, to me anyway.
Well, there's two ways of looking at overproduced. Could be like what you're saying, where everything has been replaced and given this crystal clear digital type of sound. That way it does become difficult to reproduce that exact same sound in the live setting because of the drums being triggered or the guitars are heavily processed, even though you can take that processed sound and pump it through the PA or speaker cabinets and kind of reproduce it in some way. But then it will change because of how the house is set up. Because a lot of times for a lot of your bigger acts, your bigger name acts, what you think they're playing in the studio is not what they're playing, right?
Right.
Ace Frehley is known for using the Les Paul, but those first couple albums were not recorded with a Les Paul.
Right.
Slash is known for a Gibson Les Paul. However, those early Les Pauls he were playing were actually replicas made by some of the craftsmen. They weren't really
real Les
Pauls.
Yeah.
He even used the BC Rich Mockingbird for quite a number of years, even in the studio. So first, let's put it in the context. A studio for recording, the idea is to capture the best possible sound.
Yes.
Right? And that stems from the playability from the artist, from the musician, and then what comes out. So a lot of times, I've been in the studio with guys, they're bringing their equipment, they plug in and we talked about this before, and then that's recorded. And that just adds a layer of noise that will just keep getting stacked on and causes more problems. So in today's modern studio, because of the whole digital element, everything in the box, so to speak, that has created an opportunity to eliminate a lot of that. So guys will play real drums, but they're all triggered, and then it's replaced. It's become normal, especially when, that metal sound, that new metal sound, not new N-U, but I mean new N-E-W, when metal became much faster in the mainstream and, you wanted to hear that click of the kick drum and all that. We talked about this in a couple episodes. There's that common sound, that common thread that runs through the music, this genre of music, because it's all been replaced. To get that consistency, to get that quality. Everything is quantified to keep things in time, especially at those fast paces, right? Remember, we're all human. There are some guys that can do some amazing things, but maybe not all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to playing the clicker tracks. I think there's a benefit to that. For years, and we talked about this before, back in the old days, for years, we didn't use clicker tracks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think click tracks, I think it's a little different because you don't hear that. Obviously you want the song to be the best. You want everybody to be on time. So like click tracks, I totally get. I was against it many, many years ago. But as I got older, I started to realize, when you get with guys that, songs speed up, slow down, and then, you're trying to put guitar to it and you're just not getting it. So click tracks, I totally understand because you want the song to be precise. But I just feel live, it just should be more ebbs and flows, right? Like it should just
and I believe, I want to get back to the point about the recording thing, but I do believe that a majority of people are still playing traditionally live, right? I mean, most of us, Indie in the Trench people, we don't have the accessibility or the opportunity to have that much setup time to be able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't bands that do that, because I have played with bands that the drums are triggered, or there is an on-set clicker that's counting everything off in everybody's earpiece to keep them in time. Well, listen, just because somebody plays real well doesn't mean that they play in time. There's guys that do amazing things, but they suffer from lack of time, right?
Right.
Some of these out-of-the-pocket drummers, so to speak, they have issues with timing. That's why in-the-pocket drummers, they're there. They're solid. Nothing's missed. And there's guys that are like that don't need that kind of thing, right? the new saying is back when people actually had to play or could play. And today you're getting guys that are, they can't do a show because they don't have their laptops. I mean, and I understand that if that's your shtick. In my band, I mean, we're a 4-piece, 1 guitar, bass. We got the singer and a drummer, right? We have only 1 backup vocal. We barely have time to set up our own stuff, let alone set up all this extra stuff. And then unless you're running your own sound man on tour, most of us can't, what's the point?
Right.
If you wrote the song, you should know how to play it. Now, going back to the studio thing, it's just like making a movie. You don't want to go see a crap movie, even though there are plenty of crap movies out there. But they're not Titanic or Avatar or, whatever. Even some of the great movies have mistakes in them.
Yeah.
Right? With the best efforts and a lot of money. So it happens. But for the majority of people, they want to hear something that's done well, done clean, something so they can have repeat listening and enjoy it and find new things. So I understand the importance of doing whatever you can, whatever it takes in the studio to get that idea, the spirit of the music across. I get that, okay? The options nowadays are endless. The problem of that endless is that's where this overproducing comes. I'm not opposed to replacing tracks with digital sounding stuff or whatever because you're trying to get that. I get it. I don't do much of that myself, though I use digital technology, but I don't say, well, that's one's better than the other. No, I get that. I do have issue with people just stacking effects and all this stuff to create this. If you're looking for something to create something different, okay, for a part or, that's fine. I get that. It's like using special effects in a movie. But if that's all the music is, or that's your buzz every time, well, then you're losing the quality of your songwriting. Because usually things that are overproduced, there's 2 reasons. One, person doesn't know what they're doing, and they have no clue when to stop. Because after a while, you can't tell the difference. Like, it all sounds the same, and then it sounds like crap. And the other thing is you're doing it to hide stuff. And that's very popular, even in the higher realms. You get people that have a style, a look. People seem to gravitate towards them, but they really don't have any talent. Or it's not strong enough talent to carry a full album or several albums or a big tour. So they got to overproduce it to really fill in the gaps.
Right.
The other one that I mentioned where they are overproducing because they don't know what they're doing usually happens on our level because someone's just not skilled in this. Or I remember working with people early on that wanted to get into metal because it was the hot thing back in the 80s, but they had no idea how to record metal. And they were just trying to punch everything up with, some big reverbs and delay. And it just created a wall of noise. So they were pushing those levels that there was no headroom. And over compression, that could be overproduced, right? Compression where now everything is hit this ceiling and it's being crushed. And now there's no dynamic range. That could be overproduced too. Or you have a lackluster raw mix and it goes to the mastering house and, they tell the guy, beef this up. And the guy's like, and his thing is like, well, the problem is it's a bad mix, but we can't do anything about that at this point because now you're only talking left and right. The dynamics, whatever dynamics you put into that mix with the panning and the sounds and the instrumentation, the arrangement with the vocals, placement, well, that's already set. There's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is unless you're going to go start all over again. First thing they'll do, compress the crap out of it to try to get that tight sound. Then they add EQ, and that's when you start getting noises. Or what happens is the cymbals get like they're sizzling on fire every time they right? And then they try to EQ that, and it's just like on top of. Even people with the best intentions sometimes overproduce. They go the other way, and it sounds like horse manure. I've been there. I've been in studios with my own projects and stuff where there was so much used in the raw mix that there was no headroom left for the mastering, and when it came back, it was flat, it was dull. How many people have said, I sent it out, and then it just, like everything was, or it was destroyed. You're left with a good master raw mix, and it comes back from the mastering house, and it's like, man, what did you guys do? Because at one point, by the end of the 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, over compression was, I just remember guys were just, they call it soft knee compression, but they were stacking like, 50 units. So it ain't soft knee no more. It's a heavy kick to the crotch. And there was no headroom for anything. So, you could go that route too. And then, nowadays with pop music, there's such an overproduced effort where you're talking multiple layers of vocal tracks to create this feeling. I love multi-layering.
Yeah, for
Mutt
sure.
Lang,
I'm not
Mutt
saying
Lang
I'm
did
against
that
it.
to, a lot of bands, made it very popular with Def Leppard, did stuff with AC/DC, so on and so forth. There's some good stuff to it, things that you can create. And again, that's the idea, right? You're taking this good song and trying to make it an even better song by the production quality. Because who wants to listen to a boring song? Who wants to listen to, we don't listen to AM radio anymore on a little battery transistor, right? Unless we're in some fallout shelter, then we have no choice.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
All your experts will say, and I don't know what an expert is, but this is what they'll say is, if you start with a good song, a good arrangement, and the cleaner you make your tracks, the easier it is to avoid to overproduce it. So if you're looking at just overproducing right now as a sonic thing, because I'm telling you, even these basic digital programs come with enough stuff in it that you could ruin the best of songs.
Yeah.
Right? Just by going, it's just, I can click this, I put that in, do this. Because I was there, right? When I was getting familiar with that digital process, I'm like, oh my God, it's like your fingertips and you're doing this, and this will fix this, and then this will fix that, and then this will fix that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, what am I listening to? Like, I've literally crushed drums. Literally crushed them. Like, I mean, we had a good sound, and then over mixing, over compressing, over processing, they were destroyed. And it's like, can't do anything with these. You know, it's just like we're going to have to start all over again, or we're going to have to come out of it. And, and you're just, like you said, you ruin it. Now, what you're talking about, then these bands are trying to reproduce it live. Well, that's something that they need to be aware of right from the start. I remember when I read an interview when Queensryche released Rage for Order. And they took it out on tour, and just within a couple weeks after the tour had started, Chris DeGarmo and Jeff Tate were being interviewed, and they said they were having a hard time replicating the album as it was recorded in the live setting, being just a band as they were. But that's not uncommon, right? So now I get what you're saying with Blackie Lawless, and maybe that's just, listen, that's smart business. Cover your ass right from the beginning. Yeah, we're using backing tracks. And this is why, because I want to give the fans the best possible experience.
Yep.
Okay, well, there you go. Hey-oh! Like if Paul Stanley just came out and goes, listen, it's no secret, after 50 years, throat ain't the best it was it, I'm going to get a little bit of help. Most people are going, okay, cool, whatever. If he really wanted to hide it, he should have got away from the microphone and put a headset on. And all he had to say was, hey, listen, I need the microphone closer to me because I can't project the same way into the mic.
Right.
This way, it could pick up my throat vibration along with what's coming out from the vocal cords through my mouth.
Yep.
And most people would have gone, okay. When you come into my town. Right? And that's it. So Blackie waits till all the other people do it. He figures out, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. Because he probably has Chris Holmes guitar tracks being played in the back. I create a good excuse, and that's it. I put it to rest. Nobody will talk to me about it again. They'll keep coming to the show. Oh, man, Blackie's put it on the best because he wants to give the fans what they remember. Man, half of these people can't even remember yesterday. They're going to remember 40 years ago. Get out of here. Get out of here. Well, let me ask you this, buddy. So we talked about music, right? Can a band be overproduced in their image, in their look, in what they're selling to the public? Is that possible?
It is possible. And I think that, and guys our age, we really saw this happen when, the 80s glam metal, hair metal, pop metal, whatever you want to call it, changed to when that era of metal got taken over by alternative rock. All the alternative bands, everybody was in flannels and had their hands in their pockets with their head down. That whole shtick. Even, when Guns N' Roses hit the scene, they were in jeans and leather jackets. Gone was a lot of the glitter and a lot of the hairspray and a lot of the pretty look has now become like biker gang badassery look and or your grunge. So, and what was happening was labels were asking bands to change their image, and it's just how it was. They thought that they could sell a better your Skid Rows or your Guns N' Roses or your Pearl Jams or Nirvanas or whatever. I mean, even Poison changed their look, Van Halen changed their look. Obviously a band like Van Halen probably did it on their own, although I don't know that to be sure. I'm just assuming because at the time they pretty much had their career, they probably had a lot to say in what they were doing. But, bands like Poison, even the smaller bands, were coming up and coming out later during that time, had to change their look for the times, right? I mean, and one of the big things was back in the day was Dokken, right? Like they were never that kind of band, and they had to change their look to match what was going on at that time. And then they changed their look again, as their time went on. And where a lot of these bands, if they just would have kept, especially Dokken, but if they would just would have kept what, just how they were, they probably would have been okay. Winger was good for that too, right? Like he never wanted to have the image he had. Guess what? He had to because of the time he came out, because that's what people were into, or, that's what was, going on at the time. So yeah, a lot of labels I feel that a lot of labels ruined a lot of really cool images for bands. And even in my genre of music, your death metal, your black metal, I mean, there was a time where death metal guys weren't, they weren't in jeans and t-shirts. They were, they had a different kind of clothing. And your black metal guys, the face paint wasn't as heavy as, they've gone back to that now. But there was a time where the face paint wasn't really a cool thing. It was, it was just different. It was just different as time went on. So yeah, images, yeah, for sure. Image-wise can definitely be overproduced, for sure.
You talking that, here's an example from the 80s. Whitesnake, before the Whitesnake album.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a bar band.
Yeah.
Right? It was kind of like whatever they were wearing. That album comes out, the video comes out, the hair changed, everything. It was like they super poshed up.
Yep.
And it was a huge success for them.
Yep.
Huge success. Even Dio made a bit of a switch.
Yeah. Even Ozzy.
Yeah, Ozzy got a little glammed up too. I mean, again, you had to compete. I get it. Boy bands are big on that of any time frame. They would really sell these people up. So I guess you're right. You can have an overproduced image. Then you see these people in person. You go, man, a little rough, huh? Got hit with the stick a few times. Doesn't look that way on the, this is airbrushed, that's airbrushed. I'm going to use this is a way we segue into a Kiss reference, Gene Simmons says it's show business, so show us your business, right? It's all about the show. It's all about, I guess, the make-believe, what you want to feel, larger than life. It's entertainment. It really is. It's no different than WWE wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than Olympic wrestling, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
I guess it's a matter of perspective. But as the artist, listen, if you want to do that, if that's what you want to do, I hear you. In terms of the music, again, if that's what you want to do, overproduced is the way you want to do it, or what you think is overproduced, or what other people are calling overproduced, that's fine. Remember, at the end of the day, you have to be happy with it. Like we talked about in the beginning, your goals and your achievements have nothing to do with anybody else. They have everything to do with you. And if you're content with that, if you're happy with that, well, then you go with it. Then you're doing exactly what you should be doing. But when you start worrying about everybody else and everything else, you lose sight. So if you're being overproduced or are overproducing because you're trying to compete, but all for the wrong reasons, well, then you're going to lose your way. It's just not going to pan out. But if you're doing what you do because you like it, not because somebody else likes it, at least it's honest. And at the end of the day, you can sleep. Like I said, my first couple albums, they're not even available anymore. You can get something I did in the 80s, and even that to me doesn't sound the greatest. And we had it redone, taken it off the master tapes. It was remixed. It was remastered. And all the label had reissued it and all. It sounds great for what it is. But I'm going to be honest, there's some sound that's dated because of the technology and because of the know-how of what we were trying to do back then.
Right.
Digitally, with this band, the first couple albums, you can't get them anymore because sonically they're horrible. Musically, they're good, but sonically they were destroyed because just didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. As soon as you say I don't know to an engineer, it's over. They're like, all right, I'm going to get that bass player back right now. What do you think? You got anything else?
I think the only thing I have to add to that is, kind of like to tie in what we said before, as Aerosmith would say, let the music do the talking, man. Just do you. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about an image. Just be yourself because, the music is what's going to take you through it anyway. Back in our day, image was a big thing. I don't necessarily know how. I don't think image is a thing now. I mean, there's image to a genre, but even there, it's not really a big proponent of a band like it was back when, we were younger.
I agree. I think within,
visual image.
I think within show business entertainment, there's still a look of something to make you feel like you're part of that community. You stand out, but you fit in all at the same time. But I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Personally, when I record, I love to throw instrumentation-wise. I like to throw in as much as I possibly can. For years, I played in a band with 2 guitar players, so I got used to writing that way. We played off of rhythms. There was rhythms that worked against each other, worked with each other, created sounds, backups, all this kind of thing. So when I write music, I usually write it that way, even though I'm a single guitar player. Do I record it that way? Yeah, if it's in my head and it's coming that way, I will do that. So there's oftentimes backed up guitars on our recordings, open chords or chugs in the back, or sometimes a counter melody of some sort or something like that, or a counter rhythm. Of course, I can't play them live, but I also am aware of that while I'm writing, and I know what the core element of the song is. And that's right. After everything's finished up and recording, and if that song is put into the live set, it's rehearsed in a way that works best. Yes. Now again, single guitar player. I can't play lead and rhythm at the same time. Maybe there are guys that can do that. I can barely play one, then play two. So you'll hear things, right? So when I'm doing what I call leads on our recordings, the guitars are playing rhythm in the back. Well, that doesn't happen live. Right. So the bass player has to pick up the slack in the way that they play, in the way that they attack the riff or the melody or their strings or whatever to kind of fill in those gaps. But again, we don't use backing tracks. We don't have time for it. It's too, like I said, I don't even use pedals because they're confusing and it takes too much time. And what's the point? I plug and play. Plug and play. That's what I grew up doing. Plugging and playing. Right. That's what I do. We strip down the songs, but that's, to me, the recording is one version of the song. The live is another recording of the song. We've done acoustic versions of our entire set. That's another version of the song. And then what we were doing 10 years ago with a song live and what we do now is different. The permutation, it just keeps evolving and stuff like that. I'm not opposed to getting in there and getting your song produced. You're giving it the full treatment, right? The full Monty, the red carpet, whatever you call it. As long as it's sonically working for the song, for you, and for your listeners. I've listened to professionally sound, and like we've talked about, I'm not going to mention any bands or professionally done stuff, bigger name bands, and I'm like, man, I can't handle listening to this. But they have a crowd, an audience that loves that. Yeah, it drones on, and there's noise, and it's the noise. Again, it goes back to it's not about everybody else; it's about what works best for you.
Absolutely.
Got anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, that's it, my brother.
Well, if you like that, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.